Hi, everybody. It's Mrs. K from the Massanutten Public Library. And today I want to talk to you about some books I'd like to recommend that talk about family, talk about grandparents, talk about our histories. And so that when you are a product of all the people in your family that came before you, and these stories will kind of show you how other families react to that. So I'm sure you all have grandparents that you adore and that adore you. And so I wanted to just share some of these. The first book I want to share is called A Long Way from Chicago. And it's by Richard Peck. And it won the 1999 Newbery Honor. And it's about, well, it starts out in 1929. Every August, Joey and his sister Mary Alice leave Chicago and they go to spend a week or two with their grandmother, Grandma Dowell, what they call her, and it's in a very small town in Illinois. And their grandma is like no other grandma anyone has ever met. And this book is called A Novel in Stories because every chapter is a different summer. And so the 7 different summers that they're there. And so you could read them individually. You wouldn't have to read the whole book. And they're just funny. They're laugh aloud funny because grandma, like I said, is like no other grandma. The chapters are called Shotgun Cheatham's Last Night Above Ground. I guess we know what's going to happen to Shotgun here. The Mouse in the Milk, A One-Woman Crime Wave, The Phantom Brakeman. So just a lot of different stories. Sometimes Joey and Mary Alice are just horrified by the things that their grandma did. This book was so much fun that 2 years later, Richard Peck wrote another book, which also, this one actually won the Newbery in 2001. And this one's called A Year Down Yonder. And in 1937, Mary Alice is 15. Her brother Joey is working for the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was created to help people and create jobs during the Great Depression. And Mary Alice has to go live with Grandma for an entire year. And it is a year she will never forget. So if you enjoy just funny stories, I think both of these books are a good choice for you. And it'll show you just how much family means and make you really happy that your grandma is not as crazy as Grandma Dowell. Another book I want to recommend is called The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963. And it's about the weird Watsons. That's what the narrator, Kenny, calls his family. And they are a middle-class Black family living in Flint, Michigan in the 1960s. There's mom, dad, 10-year-old Kenny, his older brother Byron, who he refers to as an official juvenile delinquent, and his little sister Joey. And the book starts off just with nice stories about the family living in Flint, Michigan. It's in a very, very cold winter. But then it shifts and starts telling stories about 13-year-old Byron and the trouble he's getting into. He gets into trouble at school and at home, and his parents really don't know what to do. So they decide to take him back to Birmingham, Alabama, which is where the mother is from. And they want him to meet their Southern relatives and spends the summer living with the grandmother, who is a lot stricter and to see things. And it is the 1960s, and I don't know how far you guys have gotten in your histories, but Black people were treated a lot differently in the South in the 60s than they were treated in the North. And they have to they show a lot, the Southern people anyway, refer to everybody as ma'am. And so they think that if they send Byron down there, it will be a good experience for him and he'll appreciate his life in the North a little bit more. But 1963 was one of the darkest moments in American history. And things change. And it's they have a very eye-opening experience when they're all there, and they start to appreciate just how much their family means to them. And so I thought you might enjoy this book. It's also a Newbery winner, and it's a very nice family story with a little bit of history thrown in, which is never a bad thing. And then the last book I want to read to you, or I'm sorry, share with you and tell you that I think you would enjoy because I loved it, is the first in the 39 Clues series. And this one's called The Maze of Bones. 39 Clues is written as a collaboration with a bunch of different authors. They all have the same goal, but each author writes a different book in the series. And some of the authors you'll recognize. We have Rick Riordan, we have Gordon Corman, Margaret Peterson Haddix. So they're very, very wonderful authors in their own right. And they've all decided to write one or two books in this series. And it chronicles the adventures of brothers Amy and Dan Cahill, who discover at their grandmother's funeral that, let me read this, the Cahills have had a greater impact on human civilization than any other family in history. Now, Amy and Dan are kind of the outcasts of the family. Their parents have died, and they're living, I think like a nanny raises them. They're very, very, they're different. There's a lot of money in the Cahill family. The grandmother, Grace Cahill, has died, and the family is huge, and they come from all over the world for grandma's funeral, and a lot of them are there to see what, at the will reading, what they're going to get, because like I said, there is a lot of money involved. But grandma had a different idea. And so before she died, she recorded this part of her will, and I'm going to share it with you. In the recording, they're looking at their grandma. She held up a manila envelope sealed with red wax. Her eyes were as bright and hard as steel. If you accept, you shall be given the first of 39 clues. These clues will lead you to a secret, which, should you find it, will make you the most powerful, influential human beings on the planet. You will realize the destiny of the Cahill family. And I now beg you all to listen to Mr. McIntyre. Now, Mr. McIntyre says this: what you now hold is a bank voucher. It shall only be activated if and when you renounce your claim to the challenge. If you so choose, each of you may walk out of this room with $1 million and never have to think about Grace Cahill or her last wishes again. Or you may choose a clue, a single clue, that will be your only inheritance. No money, no property, just a clue that might lead you to the most important treasure in the world and make you powerful beyond belief. Or it might kill you. $1 million or the clue. You have 5 minutes to decide. What would you do? What would you do? $1 million, that's wonderful. But the clue could make you the most powerful person on earth. What do you do? Well, you can guess what Amy and Dan decide, but the quest to solve the clue, the 39 clues, excuse me, they will lead to the ingredients that will create a serum that will make the most powerful person on earth. And this race to figure out the 39 clues and to get all the ingredients will, it pit family member against family member. It'll cause the different families to create alliances with each other to try to solve them. And it will take them all across the globe. It will take them to France, Austria, Japan, Egypt, Australia, South Africa, China, the Caribbean, and England. And I just loved all of these books. Mrs. Dibble and I used to, they would come in, we would practically push each other down to get to them. We just devoured them. They were so good. They were so much fun. The kids are, well, they're really like kids. They have resources that you and I would never have, but they have all those feelings that that kids have, and the jealousies and just just all the things, the competitions that brothers and sisters and cousins have. And I really enjoyed them. And the other thing is that it did take us all around the world, and it would take us to places I've never been, or certain things in those places I'd never heard of. And I would get on Google right away and research them and say, oh, that's what that looks like. Or they'd be talking about a piece of art or a statue, and I would be looking it up and seeing what those things were. So it kind of brought me more into the story that way. Just really, really enjoyed them. There are 11 books in the series, and if you fall in love with them like I did, there are other series. So there's this series, the 39 Clues, and then there is the Cahills versus the Vespers, Unstoppable, and Double Cross. So if you like this book, you'll be able to read about these people, excuse me, and these mysteries for a very long time. So I hope that helps you, point you in some fun directions. So have a good one. Bye-bye.